Hello. This message is a video response to Jazzy Slim and her video blog about black women not being shit. Excuse my language. Okay. So, first off, I'd like to say that Jazzy's assessment was spot on, and that was an excellent picture of what our community looks like right now at this point. And she said something at the beginning of her video was that she was saying everything with purpose, and that stuck out in my mind because hey, how are you? It stuck out in my mind because I'm thinking, everything's done with a purpose. Nobody does things blindly. Some people do, but most people do things with a purpose. So, with that being said, I'm not trying to place blame on other people for our situations. However, I am just extending the truth to a deeper level in history so that we can get a better insight about why we are the way we are. That way maybe we can start to break some of the behaviors of our women and start a new trend of living a different lifestyle so that we can get back to our roots, our deep roots. Not our roots here in America necessarily, but deeper than that, like the Moorish society type roots. So, I believe, we are born queens through bloodline, and things that happen within our environment affect how we are in the future or the present. So, although many of us may not act like queens, essentially we still are. So I'm going to actually read you, I don't know if I'm going to read the whole thing, depends on how fast I go, a letter written by someone in the 1700s, 1712, about a way to control slaves and get them to act a certain way and the effects. And you all may know him. You all may have heard of him. His name is Willie Lynch. So, the letter goes as follows. Gentlemen, I'm going to have to get a little closer because that way I can read faster. I greet you here on the bank of the James River in the year of our Lord, 1712. First, I shall thank you, the gentlemen of the colony of Virginia, for bringing me here. I am here to help you solve your problems with slaves. Your invitation reached me on my modest plantation in the West Indies, where I have experimented with some of the newest and still oldest methods for control of slaves. Ancient Rome would envy us if my program is implemented. As our boat sailed south on the James River, named for our illustrious king, whose version of the Bible we cherish. Okay. I saw enough to know that your problem is not unique. While Rome used numbers, you are here using a tree and a rope on occasions. I caught the whiff of a dead slave hanging from a tree a couple miles back. You are not only losing valuable stock by hangings, you are having uprisings. Slaves are running away. Your crops are sometimes left in the fields for too long, for maximum profit. You suffer occasional fires. Your animals are killed. Gentlemen, you know what your problems are. I do not need to elaborate. I am here to enumerate your problems. I am here to introduce you to a method of solving them. In my bag here, I have a foolproof method for controlling your black slaves. I guarantee every one of you that if installed correctly, it will be control for the slaves for at least 300 years. My method is simple. Any number of your family or overseer can use it. I have outlined a number of differences among the slaves, and I take these differences and make them bigger. I use fear, distrust, and envy for control purposes. These methods have worked on my modest plantations in the West Indies, and it will work throughout the South. Take this simple little list of differences and think about them. The top of my list is age, but it's only there because it starts with an A. The second is color or shade. There is intelligence, size, sex, size of plantations, status on plantations, attitude of owners, whether the slaves live in the valley, on a hill, east, west, north, south, have fine hair, coarse hair, or is tall or short. Now that you have a list of differences, I shall give you an outline of action. But before that, I shall assure you that distrust is stronger than trust, and envy stronger than adulation, respect, or admiration. The black slaves, after receiving this indoctrination, shall carry maybe thousands. Don't forget you must pitch the old black male versus the young black male, the young black male against the old black male. You must use the dark-skinned slaves versus the light-skinned slaves, and the light-skinned slaves versus the dark-skinned slaves. You must use the female versus the male, and the male versus the female. You must also have you white servants and overseers distrust all blacks. But it is necessary that your slaves trust and depend on us. They must love, respect, and trust only us. Gentlemen, these kits are your keys to control. Use them. Have your wives and children use them. Never miss an opportunity. If used intensely for 1 year, the slaves themselves will remain perpetually distrustful. Thank you, gentlemen. Let's make a slave. It was the interest and business of slaveholders to study human nature, and the slave nature in particular, with a view to practical results. I and many of them attained astonishing proficiency in this direction. They had to deal not with earth, wood, and stone, but with men, and every regard they had for their own safety and prosperity, they needed to know the material on which they were to work. Conscious of the injustice and wrong they were every hour perpetuating, and knowing what they themselves would do. Were they the victims of such wrongs? They were constantly looking for the first signs of the dreaded retribution. They watched, therefore, with skilled and practiced eyes, and learned to read with great accuracy the state of mind and heart of the slave through his sable face, unusual sobriety, apparent abstractions, sullenness, and indifference indeed. Any mood out of the common was afforded ground for suspicion and inquiry. Frederick Douglass' Let's Make a Slave is a study of the scientific process of man-breaking and slave-making. It describes the rationale and results of the Anglo-Saxons' ideas and methods of ensuring slave relationship. Let's make a slave. The original and development of social being called the Negro. Let's make a slave. What do we need? First of all, we need a black N-word man, nigger, and a pregnant nigger woman, and her baby, nigger boy. Second, we will use the same basic principle that we use into breaking a horse, combined with some more sustaining factors. What we do with horses is that we break them from one form of life to another. That is, we reduce them from their natural state in nature, whereas nature provides them with natural capacity to take care of their offspring. We break that natural string of independence from them and thereby create a dependency status so that we may be able to get from them useful production for our business and pleasure. Cardinal principles. For fear that our future generations may not understand the principles of breaking both of these together, the nigger and the horse, we understand that short-range planning economics results in periodic economic chaos, so that to avoid turmoil in the economy, it requires us to have breadth and depth in long-range comprehensive planning, articulating both skill and sharp perceptions. We lay down the following principles for long-range comprehensive economic planning. Both horse and nigger is no good to the economy in the wild or natural state. Spring. Both must be crossbred to produce a variety of and division of labor. Both must be taught to respond to a peculiar new language. Psychological and physical instruction of containment must be created for both. We hold the 6 cardinal principles as truth to be self-evident, based upon the following: the discourse concerning the economics of breaking and tying the horse and the nigger together, all inclusive of 6 principles laid down about. Note, neither principle alone will suffice for good economics. All principles must be employed for orderly good of the nation. Accordingly, both a wild horse and a wild or nature nigger is dangerous even if captured, for they will have the tendency to seek their customary freedom, and in doing so might kill you in your sleep. You cannot rest. They sleep while you are awake, and you are awake, and they are awake while you are asleep. They are dangerous near the family house, and it requires too much labor to watch them away from the house. Above all, you cannot get them to work in this natural state. Hence, both the horse and the nigger must be broken. That is, breaking them from the one form of mental life to another. Keep the body, take the mind. In other words, break the will to resist. Now, the breaking process is the same for both the horse and the nigger, only slightly varying in degree. But as we said before, there is an art in long-range economic planning. You must keep your eye and thoughts on the female and the offspring of the horse and the nigger. A brief discourse in the offspring development will shed light on the nigger. Shed light on the key to sound economic principles. Pay little attention to the generation of the original breaking, but concentrate on the future generation. Therefore, if you break the mother, the female mother, she will break the offspring in its early years of development. And when the offspring is old enough to work, she will deliver it up to you, for her normal female protective tendencies will have been lost in the original breaking process. For an example, take the case of the wild stud horse, a female horse and an already infant horse, and compare the breaking process with 2 captured niggers. Okay? for limited containment. Completely break the female horse until she becomes very gentle, whereas you or anybody can ride her in comfort. Breed the mare and the stud until you have the desired offspring. Then you can turn the stud to freedom until you need him again. Train the female horse, whereby she will eat out of your hand, and she will in turn train the infant horse to eat out of your hand also. When it comes to breaking the uncivilized nigger, use the same process, but vary the degree and step up the pressure so as to do a complete reversal of the mind. Take the meanest and most relentless nigger and strip him of his clothes in front of the remaining male niggers, the female, and the nigger infant. Tar and feather him. Tie each leg to a different horse and faced in the opposite directions, and set him afire and beat both horses to pull him apart in front of the remaining niggers. Next step is to take the bullwhip and beat the remaining niggers, males, to the point of death in front of the female and the infant. Don't kill him, but put the fear of God in him, for he can be useful for future breeding. Now we're getting to the good part. This is breaking the process of the African woman. Take the female and run a series of tests on her to see if she will submit to your desires willingly. Test her in every way, because she is the most important factor for good economics. If she shows any sign of resistance in submitting completely to your will, do not hesitate to use the bullwhip on her to extract the last bit of bitch out of her. Take care not to kill her, for in doing so you spoil good economics. When in complete submission, she will train her offsprings in the early years to submit to labor when they become of age. Understanding is the best thing. Therefore, we shall go deeper into this area of subject matter concerning what we have produced here in the breaking process of the female nigger. We have reversed the relationship in her natural uncivilized state. She would have a strong dependency on the uncivilized nigger male, and she would have a limited protective tendency towards the independent male offspring who would raise male offspring to be dependent like her. Nature had provided for this type of balance. We reversed the nature by burning and pulling of a civilized nigger apart from the bullwhipping to the other point of death, all in her presence. By her being left alone, unprotected, with the male image destroyed, the ordeal caused her to move from her psychological dependent state to a frozen independent state. This frozen psychological state of independence, she will raise her male and female offspring in reverse roles. For fear of the young male's life, she will psychologically train him to be mentally weak and dependent, but physically strong. Because she has become psychologically independent, she will train her female offspring to be psychologically independent. What have you got? You've got the nigger woman out in front of the nigger man, behind and scared. This is a perfect situation of sound sleep and economics. Before the breaking process, we had to be alertly on guard at all times. Now we can sleep soundly. For out of frozen fear, his woman stands guard for us. He cannot get past her slave molding process. He is a good tool, now ready to be tied to a horse at a tender age. By the time the nigger boy reaches the age of 16, he is soundly broken and ready for a long life of sound and efficient work, and the reproduction of a unit of good labor force. Continually through the breaking of uncivilized savage niggers, by throwing the N-word, or nigger, female, savage into a frozen psychological state of independence, by killing of the protective male image, and by creating a submissive dependent mind of the nigger male slave. We have created an orbiting cycle that turns on its own axis forever, unless a phenomenon occurs and reshifts the position of the male and female slaves. We show what we mean by example. Take the case of the two economic slave units and examine them close. We breed two nigger males with two nigger females, then we take the nigger male away from them to keep them from moving and working. Say one nigger female bears a nigger female and the other bears a nigger male. Both nigger females, being without influence of the nigger male image, frozen with independent psychology, will raise her offspring into reverse positions. The one with the female offspring will teach her to be like herself, independent and negotiable. We negotiate with her, through her, by her, negotiates at her will. The one with the nigger male offspring, she being frozen subconscious fear for his life, will raise him up to be mentally dependent and weak, but physically strong. In other words, body over mind. Now, in a few years, when these two offsprings become fertile for early reproduction, we will mate and breed them and continue the cycle. That is good, sound, and long-range comprehensive planning. Warning: possible interloping negatives. Earlier we talked about the non-economic good of the horse and the nigger in their wild or natural state. We talked about the principle of breaking and tying them together for orderly production. Furthermore, we talked about paying particular attention to the female and her offspring for orderly future planning. And then, more recently, we stated that by reversing the positions of the male and female savages, we created an orbiting cycle that turns on its own axis forever, unless a phenomenon occurred and reshift and positions of the male and female savages. Our experts warned us about the possibility of this phenomenon occurring, for they say that the mind has a strong drive to correct and recorrect itself over a period of time, if I can touch some substantial original historical base. And they advise us that the best way to deal with the phenomena is to shave off the brute's mental history and create a multiplicity of phenomena of illusion, so that each illusion will twirl in its own orbit, something similar to floating balls in a vacuum. This creation of multiplicity of phenomena of illusions entails the principle of crossbreeding the nigger and the horse, as we stated above, the purpose which is to create a diversified division of labor, thereby creating different levels of labor and different values of illusion at each connecting level of labor, the result of which is the severance of the points of original beginnings for each sphere illusion. Since we feel that the subject matter may get more complicated as we proceed in the laying down our economic plan and concerning the purpose, reason, and effect of crossbreeding horses and nigger, we shall lay down the following definition terms for future generations. Orbiting cycle means a thing turning in a given path. Axis means upon which or around which the body turns. Phenomenon means something beyond ordinary conception and inspires awe and wonder. Multiplicity means a great number. Crossbreeding a horse means taking a horse and breeding it with an ass, so you get a dumb, backward ass, long-headed mule that is not reproductive nor productive by itself. Crossbreeding niggers mean taking so many drops of good white blood and putting them into as many nigger women as possible, varying the drops and putting them by the various tone that you want, and then letting them breed with each other until another circle of color appears as you desire. Which this means is this: put the nigger and the horse in a breeding pot, mix some asses and some good white blood, and what do you get? You got a multiplicity of colors. Ass backwards, unusual niggas, running tied to a backward ass, long-headed mules, the one productive of itself, and the other sterile. The one constant and the other dying. We keep the nigger constant, or we may replace the mules for another tool. The mule and the nigger tied to each other, neither knowing where the other came from and neither productive for itself nor without each other. Now I'm going to stop here, because it just gets into the language and everything after that. But for Jazzy Slim, my goal is similar to your goal in the fact that I would like to take our place back as rightful queens. Earlier in life, I did fit those descriptions, stemming from low self-esteem. And I've become older and much wiser. But now I notice that we have to work together and stop the cycle that was intricately forced upon us, as I just displayed. So, we know the problem. The question now is, how do we fix it? How do we get everybody together and fix this problem so that we can, have a new phenomenon that will reverse what these people have done to us? And we need some kind of recourse. So that's just all pretty much I want to say. I do know that the problems that we do have, but I know that there's a reason why there are problems, and I don't specifically blame it on us, because how are we to blame for something that has been put into our blood, 100%, So I'm not going to just place the blame on us. I place the blame on everyone as a whole. But no matter where the blame lies, we still need to find some way to fix this problem so that we can get back on track. And that's all I have to say about that. And, if anybody does fit one of the descriptions of the black women ain't shit, maybe it would be beneficial to, try to help one another to get where we need to be, and try to unify and try to fix this thing. That's all my concern is. And if you need some extra money, visit my website at www.easypaychecknow.weebly.com. And that's all. Thanks. Have a good day.